What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the new TFG studio here in my wife and I's new home. Obviously, a little bit of decor work still to do, but content must come first. And with that, welcome in to my first top 10 positional breakdowns video of the 2022 NFL draft season. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the quarterbacks. Before we get started, please do hit that like button down below. Really would help me out, helps share this video. If you enjoy the video, if you are new, also make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss any more great draft content as we lead up to April's draft. And lastly, this show is brought to you by my amazing supporters on patreon.com/thatfranchiseguy, where you can endorse this channel, help this machine go, if you will. But not just that, you will also get exclusive draft content. So if you enjoy a video like this, I do think you will love my Patreon. We've got currently film breakdowns up on a bunch of the quarterbacks we're going to be talking about in this very video. You can see what I saw to come to some of these conclusions firsthand. You'll also get access to my full draft board that has even more information than I'm going to show you on the top 10 quarterbacks, full player evals on all 22 quarterbacks that I've evaluated for this class, and plenty more to come as I continue getting through the grades for this draft class. So you'll get access to the whole shebang there on Patreon. It's the best time of year if you enjoy my draft content to sign up on patreon.com/thatfranchiseguy and support my channel in the process. So thank you for checking that out. Let's get into the action with QB 10 here. And this is not a quarterback that was on my radar before I sat down to do these evaluations. He was actually like the 20th guy that I got to here. His name is Cole Kelly out of Southeast Louisiana. Now, obviously, we're talking about a 6th, 7th round pick at best. I would bet he goes undrafted because he's kind of my diamond in the rough, traits-based developmental prospect, if you will. But 6'6.5", 245 pounds, and he's got the arm talent to match. The ball really does pop off of his arm. And one thing that you like about him, because you're really just looking for a couple things you like with these, dart throw quarterbacks is really what this is he was forced to play within the pocket and develop that play style at the collegiate level because he's not a mobile guy. Let's face it, he's not a play extender at all. But in general, he's good at reading the safeties and recognizing coverages and making decent decisions with the football. And he's relatively accurate thanks to that arm talent as well. So there's something to work with there. Probably never going to turn into anything. But if you want a, rocket arm pocket passer that showed nice year-to-year growth, this guy originally went to Arkansas, didn't win the starting job, ended up transferring out, wasn't even the starter in his first year at Southeast Louisiana, won it in his junior redshirt season in 2020, was okay, and then really kind of balled out in his final season. So he has the development track. You hope he can keep the train rolling, and there might be something there. That's all the time we're going to spend on Cole Kelly. Fascinating strong arm pocket passer. Now my number 9 quarterback, and QBs 9, 8, and 7 really fall into that career backup mold of guys that just don't really have the arm talent to truly project as career starters in the league. But Chase Garbers can do some nice things. He's a good athlete. He reads defenses pretty well. I like what I saw from him, especially in the quick game, with which if you're a backup quarterback, you better be good in the quick game. So you like that. He has kind of deceptive speed. He's a little bit slow initially. He accelerates a little bit slower. He's a little stiff in his movement, but I think it throws off defenders, and he can actually get the corner on read options when he's scrambling. He'll pick up first downs with his feet, so he's got a little bit of that athleticism that you like to see in a backup, because ultimately, these guys often need to depend on their legs because they're usually not like surgeons of the field with their arm. And that's Chase Garbers in a nutshell. He's got nice touch. He can layer the ball against zone coverage. He will use the deep ball, but it's not consistent with his accuracy. It's not something that's going to be there for him in the NFL consistently. So you're talking about a 6th, 7th round pick, someone to come in, maybe compete for a backup job right away. Same thing here with my number 8 quarterback in Brock Purdy. And when you can get a backup quarterback, by the way, on a cheap rookie contract, that's better than paying a guy like Case Keenum $6-7 million, in my opinion. So there is some value in these guys. It's just you got to lower the expectations. And unfortunately with Brock Purdy, you have to talk about expectations because his script has flipped entirely. You go back to his freshman season, he had Iowa State in the national championship picture. People were talking about Brock Purdy as a guy that was going to turn into a future number 1 overall pick. And really what it was at that point in time was he just has to bulk up a little bit and work on that arm talent. And unfortunately, throughout his time at Iowa State, his arm never got better. And he still has, coming out, a D+ grade for me in arm talent, which just isn't going to cut it consistently at the next level. And it showed at Iowa State, obviously on film, when he's trying to fit tight window throws, when he's trying to push the deep ball or throw to the sidelines, the ball just hangs a little bit too long and defenders can catch up. And that's going to be a problem for him at the next level. But even Iowa State acknowledged this. And in his time at Iowa State, it felt like every year got worse and worse. His average depth of target actually went down every single year at Iowa State. He was at like throwing the ball at 11 yards per attempt or at least per completion. In his freshman year, he was down to close to like 8 by the end of his senior year. So they really reduced what he could do. So there's kind of this residue, this prospect fatigue with Brock Purdy because we knew about him years and years ago and he just never reached his potential. But there's still a lot to like in Purdy's game. I compare him to Case Keenum. He reminds me so much of a player with Case Keenum's play style. Obviously, the lack of arm talent that's always held Case back, but he's really good in the quick game. He's mobile. He's got a great pocket presence. He has some good quick twitch athleticism to elude sacks and get out of the pocket and pick up first downs with his feet. Now, he's not a burner. He's not a fast guy, but he can scoot. And he also has a really nice release. He is the second fastest release in this class, in my opinion. So some comparisons to like the way the Niners use Jimmy Garoppolo with those quick point guard ball handling skills, screens, boots, off-platform screens, RPOs. Like he can get rid of that thing quickly. So there's a skill set there that you can craft a game plan around as a backup. And again, 6th, 7th round pick. You get a cheap backup for 4 years. There's worse ways to spend a back end of day 3 pick than on Brock Purdy. Now my number 7 quarterback, again, falls into that backup quarterback mold, but has a little bit stronger arm talent, which means his potential is just a little bit higher to maybe become a starter, maybe be that 4th, 5th, 6th round pick that surprises some people. Do I bet on that to happen with Bailey Zappe? No, but he at least has an NFL arm, right? He can hit deep outs occasionally. He has a little bit better velocity on his deep ball. He does push the ball downfield. So there's a little bit of that in there with Bailey Zappe, at least. He's very good in the quick game. He's got a nice release. He's mobile. He's got that classic backup quarterback profile. I don't hate his tape. He's a smart player. I think he's going to stick around in the league for a long time. He's just never going to be that dude. But as far as backup quarterback prospects go, you could do a lot worse than Bailey Zappe, and I feel very strongly that he is going to get drafted. And now we have to have a little bit of a tangent here before we get into the top 6, because that's what you guys are here for. This is a polarizing draft class, to say the least, for these top 6 quarterbacks, and it's become infamously like one of the worst quarterback classes, at least since I've been doing this on YouTube. There's no clear-cut number 1. A lot of people are saying, I don't even know if you can draft any of these guys in the first round, and I mostly agree with all of that sentiment. But I need to clarify here because I'm going to rank these guys 1 through 6. I'm going to get there. I have grades for these guys. I'll show you how they came out for these guys. But this is a unique situation here because there's different ways and different styles that you could view these guys. So really 1 through 6 here, it's incredibly tight. And I can see an argument for any of these 6 guys as QB1. So I came up with this roadmap here to better detail kind of what my process would be on these quarterbacks. And I'm actually going to spoil the rankings a little bit as far as the ordering of these players. But you have to ask a couple questions if you're going to spend, let's just say, a top 50 pick on one of these quarterbacks. The first question you need to ask is, do you need a starter right now? Or are you more looking for that higher upside guy that you can develop and maybe you have someone in place right now? So if your answer to do I need a starting quarterback right now is yes, let's say you're the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Washington Commanders, going to have to get used to that. If the answer to I need a starting quarterback right now, I've got a good situation, we just need a guy that can come in and be a decent player for us right away. If that answer is yes, then there's 2 quarterbacks that I think would be in your top consideration, and that would be Kenny Pickett and Desmond Ridder. And I'll get in more detail here on it in a second here, just kind of showing the roadmap here. If your answer to do I need a starting quarterback right now is no, let's say you're the Lions or the Eagles, you got a guy in place, but you've got bigger things on the horizon here, you want to increase the upside at that position, then you have to ask another question. The first question you ask is, are you feeling lucky? Because if you're feeling lucky, my guy would be Carson Strong, who to me actually has the best tape in this class. The problem is his knees and injury issues that we'll talk about when we get to Carson Strong. If you're not necessarily feeling lucky, but you have a good situation to develop a young quarterback, then you got 3 options that are literally just dart throws and extremely tight. Sam Howell, Matt Corral, and Malik Willis out of Liberty. So I wanted to lay that roadmap out just to show you that, like, I recognize that there's different styles here and there's different priorities for how these teams are going to view this thing. I'm ranking these guys on a league-wide scale, applying the same grade from the same angle to everybody. But different teams are certainly going to look at this from different angles. So I wanted to lay that all out for you right now. And now let's do my top 6 quarterbacks here, if you will. So number 6 for me is Malik Willis out of Liberty. And you will see how close 6, 5, and 4 are here in just a moment. But, I did the film breakdown of Malik Willis, and I talked about how the highs for Malik Willis are as exciting as it gets in this class. And if you got Willis QB1, totally get it. You want to gamble on the upside, totally get it. I'm, as much as anybody else, going to preach like swing for the fences, swing big. And that's what drafting Malik Willis is, because he's got the arm talent. He's incredibly athletic. He's going to be a top 3 to 5 threat as a running quarterback in like designed run game right away, the second you draft him. And he's accurate outside the numbers. He can throw vertical routes with the best of them. But the deal with Malik Willis that I talked about in my film breakdown for him, if you have not seen it, go check it out on YouTube here. I did it 2 weeks ago. Is people get excited about the highlight reel, the plays he can make, the Twitter clips that go around. But what a lot of people don't take the time to dig into as this hype train gets going is his full game tape, where there are so many warts on his film that I just can't get past in my mind. I really think Malik Willis needs 2 years to sit and develop. I think he's that far away from being a functional, consistent quarterback in the NFL. It's part of why I compare him to Jalen Hurts, who is just kind of getting there now after 2 years. He has 3 defining weaknesses in his game as a passer that really bother me. Number 1 is he is a first read quarterback through and through. And some of it was Liberty's offense just didn't ask him to do a whole lot of like reading safeties, progressing through his reads. But whether it's on Willis or Liberty, the fact is it's just not there on his tape. As I said in my film breakdown, you can count with your fingers how many times he went beyond his first read in his final season. So whether it's on Liberty or it's on Malik Willis, you either have to hope that it's there or you have to develop it. So that's a huge problem for me. He's going to go first read and run. And I promise you, NFL defenses will be very, very keen to that and have linebackers that run 4.40s with a spy on Malik Willis, and I promise you it's not going to look as pretty with him scrambling in the NFL against those athletes as it did against Liberty. So there's that. The other thing is he doesn't read coverages. He doesn't read the safeties. He's more reading his receivers. And when he gets to the NFL, he's going to be facing all of these split safety defenses that are rotating from cover 3 into cover 2, showing cover 4, and end up switching it into cover 3. And he's going to get baited into a lot of throws that he's not expecting defenders. He really struggles against zone. He doesn't throw with anticipation in that area of the field. And he has a complete blind spot for hitting his check down out of the backfield. And when he throws his check down, it's often way too late. So there's a lot of issues with his ability to dissect zone coverages. And the third problem with him is, yes, he does all these amazing things as a playmaker. He's got this incredible athleticism. He can break sacks. He'll scramble. But I don't love his decision-making after the structure of the play breaks down. Obviously, when you hear that, you think like Carson Wentz, Jameis Winston, the guy that's just going to throw the ball up into harm's way and make those effort throws. And yeah, Malik Willis will do that. He'll just chuck the ball willy-nilly and hope things work out. But additionally, another thing that bothers about me is he scrambles to run. He doesn't scramble to throw. And part of what makes guys like Mahomes and Josh Allen so special is that when they get on the move, they're able to see throwing lanes develop and make these unbelievable throws 20, 30 yards down the field. And Willis, he'll make throws when guys scream open in front of him. But for the most part, he misses a ton of opportunities to throw the ball on the move. And oftentimes he's already tucked the ball and he's committed to running, which again, at the NFL level, they're going to be much more prepared for that. So I love the upside with Malik Willis, but I think he's so far away, and you have to have a fully structured business plan for how you're going to get Malik Willis up to a starting caliber level, because right now you can't just put him in there and expect him to succeed. I really do firmly believe that. So he's a lot of growth to do. There's a lot of excitement with Malik Willis, and I'm probably going to spend more time on him than anybody else in this video because he is so polarizing. I've seen people say we should spend a top 10 pick on him. I've seen people say he's a 3rd to a 4th round prospect, and I think that's all within the realm of reasonable possibility, because depending on what games you watch, when you watch them, how much of the games you watch, you could come to those conclusions. So very polarizing quarterback prospect, one of the more polarizing in a long time, highest upside in this class, but a really low floor as well. So he's going to come in at QB6, but you'll see right away here how tight his ranking is with QB5, just 0.01 below QB5 here for me, who is Matt Corral out of Ole Miss. And Corral is also a very traitsy kind of high ceiling, low floor quarterback, just like Willis. He has a very rare trait that gets you excited, and it's dangerous to say this, but he has that sort of Aaron Rodgers flip of the wrist, high velocity fastball in the quick game. Like catch the snap, boop, ball's out in the receiver's hands already. And Ole Miss really leaned into that. They leaned into his athletic ability a lot. So you saw a lot of QB runs, a lot of RPOs, a lot of quick hitting bubble screens. And that limited the amount of true NFL tape we could get from Matt Corral. And it also led to me to a ton of inconsistency in those more traditional what you call, NFL style plays where he's taking a 5-step drop or taking a 7-step drop, being asked to read the safeties and survey a defense and get through his progressions. And at times he does that. He climbs to his second read. He gets to that backside seam ball or whatever it may be, and it's beautiful. And then there's times where he's staring down first reads. He's taken off too early. He's failing to sense pressure and manipulate the pocket. He's also really inconsistent with his accuracy. So you hope that you can just kind of rein all the traits in and package this a little bit better. Again, very tight with Malik Willis. I think you get a little bit more NFL readiness from Matt Corral, just because he did show more signs with coverage recognition and hanging tall in the pocket, throwing tough balls down the field as opposed to taking off and run right away. There's just a little bit more of that with Corral than there is with Willis, but seriously, a dart throw with those two, and my number 4 quarterback, who's going to be Sam Howell. So the main reason I have Sam Howell just a tick above Corral and Willis is I think there's a little bit more benefit of the doubt to give Howell as opposed to the other two guys. He's 21 years old as opposed to 23 for the other two guys. He had the best season out of the 11 combined years or whatever it is for these three guys in his 2020 season when he had Diami Brown and he had a really good run game to support him. And additionally, his junior year, his final year, I really do believe was the highest degree of difficulty surrounding situation for any of these quarterbacks. I mentioned the departure of the talent around him. And then what they did was basically redo the entire offense to be this team that was overly dependent on RPOs, screens, and quarterback runs. Like, they seriously treated him like a, like in the NFL when they put the backup in and it's like, oh, he can't throw, but he can run, so we're going to do all these weird gimmicky plays. That's like how they treated Sam Howell, and I felt like it was really stupid. And in those rare, like, real NFL drop-back situations, I thought Sam Howell played his best football. I thought he showed a good ability to read defenses and showed some development in that part of his game from his sophomore year. Now, his O-line stunk. His receivers were not getting open until they unlocked the young kid that's going to be drafted in a few years. Like halfway through the year, he got much better once he got on the field. I'm sorry, I can't think of his name, but anyway, it was hard as shit for Sam Howell. It really was. He was running for his life. He didn't have receivers open, and his last year, it was just really unfortunate for him that he couldn't just get to the NFL after his sophomore year, because coming into the year, he was the anticipated number 1 overall pick, and his tape just dropped that down. So I think there's reasons to believe things can get better quickly for Sam Howell at the next level. I also want to say that there's this belief that Malik Willis is miles ahead of anybody as far as upside in this class. I don't think that's true. I think Sam Howell has very comparable arm talent. I think his accuracy is pretty comparable. I would say Willis is a little bit more accurate. But then the other thing with Howell is he's legit fast and he's built. Like, him and Willis are both 6 foot 220. Like, they're the same size. Willis is a little bit faster, but I think Willis runs like 4.48. I think Sam Howell runs like 4.58. And he's built like a running back. He'll run through guys. They used him as a design runner. So Howell is a very good athlete with a very strong live arm. And for that reason, I compare him to Mitch Trubisky, because Trubisky always was underrated with his athleticism and his arm talent. The problem was consistency as a passer and accuracy. And I hate to do the UNC to UNC comp, but I try to stay away from those. But in this situation, I really think it makes sense. And, you're not drafting Howell 3rd overall like you were Trubisky. He's got a 2nd-round grade just like I have on Corral and Willis, which is probably where Trubisky should have been in the first place. So I kind of like that comp. That's a rough cluster, man. You're gambling on traits. You're hoping you can develop these guys and work from there. That's my ordering, at least for now. It's going to be, very much debated in these comments down below, and definitely should be. But that's my order for the kind of traits-based, developmental type of quarterbacks. And then we get into my 3rd quarterback here, which is one of those guys that could probably play now a little bit more than those guys we just talked about, and that's Desmond Ridder at 3. So there's a lot to like with Ridder. He's one of the better processors in this class. He's got a nice release. He's athletic. You can lean into him in the run game. He's excellent in the quick game, RPO game, play action, all that stuff. He's got a solid arm. He can make some really impressive throws, especially those outbreaking routes to the sideline. He just has one defining weakness that drives you insane, and that is accuracy. He genuinely has probably the most erratic accuracy of any quarterback in this class. It's like out of nowhere. You look at him and he's this systematic, smart quarterback, but he's just a missed throw waiting to happen. And these throws are like sailing over receivers' heads, wide out of bounds, like oftentimes putting the ball in harm's way. And if he can't correct that at the next level, no one's going to take him seriously as a sustainable starter. Everything else about him, very solid. And that's why I compare him to an inaccurate Dak Prescott. And you guys know that have been around, I'm a little bit lower on Dak Prescott, so that's going to sound like a really high endorsement for a lot of people. I'm just, I think Dak is a lot closer to like a Kirk Cousins than people realize. So that's kind of where I see Desmond Ridder is more of like a, I almost went with Jimmy Garoppolo, but he's much more athletic than Jimmy Garoppolo. So he's in a Jimmy G, Dak Prescott spectrum, if you will. But I do think you can take him first round. You're not going to feel great about it. You really hope those accuracy issues get better. Because if they do, he's going to return value as a second half of the first round quarterback. I do believe that. There's a lot of good stuff in his tape. It's just the freaking accuracy, man. So if he can hone that in, you could actually find a bit of a steal in Desmond Ridder. But then my number 2 quarterback is actually Kenny Pickett, based on my tape grade here. And Pickett definitely had the most consistent season start to finish, and it's why he's by most considered consensus QB1. I've got some pretty big issues and concerns with Kenny Pickett, but there's a lot to like as well. He's a really athletic guy. He's good in play extension. He's got a pretty good arm. He's probably the most accurate quarterback in this class to all 3 levels, at least with a college football in his hands. I'll talk about that in just a second. And he's really good in the quick game, makes good decisions with the ball, like all that stuff. He's just a solid, sound quarterback. A lot of times plays like Derek Carr. Now, my biggest frustration with Kenny Pickett is he bails from clean pockets more than any quarterback I think I've ever seen. That's where the Drew Lock comes in. There's a lot of Jalen Hurts in his game for that. It's infuriating. Like, he'll have a 3-man rush. He'll look at a couple reads, which he's very good at. He's the best quarterback in this class at consistently getting through his progressions. But he just takes off and runs. He has like the worst pocket presence of any quarterback that's ever been considered for a first-round pick, in my opinion. It's infuriating. He needs to learn to stay put. Like, yes, you have this great athleticism, but you're not going to be able to get away with a lot of this stuff at the next level. And even at college, like, he would bail and teams would just clean up his scrambling ability. It's just like, where are you going, dude? So that's really frustrating from Kenny Pickett. The other thing is the hand size. And a lot of people just dismiss it. It's a real thing, you guys. It is a real thing. I would not be saying this if I thought it was some gimmicky scout lingo that's just BS, because I think there's a lot of that in the league. But this is not one of them. You got to remember, the college football gets bigger. I don't know the exact dimensions, but the ball gets bigger from college to the NFL. Kenny Pickett, it would be the only starting quarterback in the NFL with under 9-inch hands. And even 9 inches, a lot of times, people will say is too small. And he wears gloves. And what we saw in Mobile, I witnessed it firsthand on the sidelines in front of my own face. In wet conditions, he couldn't command the football at all. He was short-arming, like 10-yard outs, sailing balls out of bounds. If you are an outdoor football team, I just don't know if you can actually draft this guy. Because if you get conditions, I would be terrified of how he's just going to be able to handle the football. So a very much like unique situation there. I look at teams like New Orleans or Atlanta, dome teams. You might be able to get a steal in Kenny Pickett. But if you're like Pittsburgh or, these And it's funny because he played at Pittsburgh, right? But again, I didn't see a lot of rainy games on his college tape, and the ball gets bigger, so it is different. But if you're like a cold weather or outdoor football team, I don't know how seriously you can consider Kenny Pickett, especially in the first round, even though his tape is really good, outside of the bailing from clean pockets thing. So I like Kenny Pickett. I like his character. I like his toughness. He's got this like infectious energy about him. But gosh, there's some real issues with the Kenny Pickett evaluation as well. And that brings me to my number one quarterback based on my grade, and that's Carson Strong. Is he my number one quarterback? Like, would I draft him ahead of all these guys? No, I wouldn't, because he has this glaring injury concern. But I do believe without the injury, he would be my clear-cut number one quarterback. He's got a super strong arm. He's really good at reading defenses. He has, like Kenny Pickett, he has this contagious, like, energy. He's got that clutch trait about him. I don't want to put too much stock in that, but he feels like the kind of quarterback that can make huge throws that just bring you back in a game when you're hurting, and I love that about him. He also has probably the best pocket sense in this class. He navigates pressure with ease. He has that eye in the back of his head, which is maybe the most rare trait to find for a quarterback, where he'll feel that blindside pressure and just calmly step up in the face of pressure and drop a ball over the middle of the field. Of course, he's not overly mobile, and that's going to limit his upside a little bit. And he would be the sixth best quarterback in last year's draft, but that puts this draft class in perspective a little bit. Now you got to talk about his knee. He has cartilage issues with his knee. So the cartilage is what protects the bones from colliding into each other, and obviously leading to pain and degenerative issues. If those bones are colliding while you're moving, your kneecap's just going to degrade over time. So the cartilage keeps the bones from hitting each other, and his cartilage is like severely damaged to the point where those bones do kind of run into each other. So what happened at the end of his Nevada season, his final year, is he very clearly was in a ton of pain. He was slowing down. He wasn't planting off that foot. His velocity dropped off. And unfortunately, when I was at the Senior Bowl, I saw a little bit of that lessened velocity, because you watch the first 6 games of Carson Strong, he's got like a Justin Herbert FU arm. Second half of the year, he wasn't getting the same mechanics. That velocity was dropping off. And unfortunately, I still think he's recovering a little bit. He was moving okay, but the ball velocity wasn't there. Now, reports are he has gotten an operation that puts a cadaver cartilage into your knee, and it's all about if his body accepts that cartilage or if it rejects it. All accounts are this has a pretty high chance of success, actually, so it's not all bad, but it's certainly not a guarantee. It's really tough, because I do genuinely think he is the best quarterback in this draft. If you've got an offensive line and playmakers that can get open, he's got a little bit of that structural dependency where he's not going to improvise and create a ton. He does need the players around him to provide him the structure of the offense, but he is the best quarterback in this class, in my opinion, when he's 100%. So it's really hard. There's not a lot of momentum for Carson Strong right now. It feels like he's going to slip into the second round, and I understand it, but I'm just telling you, my eyeballs and the way I evaluate the game, Carson Strong has the best tape in this class. So he's technically my QB1, but as I showed you that roadmap, it's not that simple. So there's my grades on these players. Again, you guys can check out my draft board on Patreon. You can read the full player write-ups, their full list of strengths and weaknesses. You'll get film breakdowns on a lot of these guys. So patreon.com/thatfranchiseguy. I appreciate you guys for watching this video. Please do hit that like button if you enjoyed. Drop your comments down below what you think. And that's all I got. We'll see you guys for the next one. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Peace out.